Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I hope that you all can hear me. If you can, somebody put a thumbs up or something. First of all, I want to thank the Creator for allowing me to come and share whatever knowledge that I have, that I've researched. This particular subject of Mansa Musa, I've actually researched for about 6 months before I published my writings on it. And this topic is very important to today's generation, particularly young people or people in their 30s, 40s. It doesn't matter. You know, the main struggle that we have to get back, to take back, is our minds. We have to take our minds back. Stephen Biko said it, that the greatest tool in the hands of the oppressor is the minds of the oppressed. And that seems to be the problem, not just here in Black America, where we were totally robbed of our name, language, religion, culture, our God, but even West Africa. West Africans have been colonized not just physically, but psychologically. Whereas you see West Africans knowing more about French history sometimes than they know about their own history. Knowing more about American history even, more than they know about their own history. And so therefore their admiration, their standards are still their former colonial masters, as our admiration and standards are still our former slave masters and the slave masters' children. You know, you hear some of us artists say, you know, I'm the next Bill Gates in the making. I'm the next Black Bill Gates in the making. And you have to think about this, is that why would you want to be the next Black Bill Gates? First of all, there was never a first Bill Gates. And secondly, you descend from West Africans. And one of these West Africans, Mansa Musa, was said by Forbes magazine to be the richest man that ever lived. This is something that should make you proud of being a descendant of West Africans, instead of still using somebody who is not as rich as one of your ancestors as your standard for wealth. This man was the richest man that ever lived. Even Muammar Gaddafi, before they killed him, they said that he was the richest man alive, an African. The richest man alive before he was killed was Muammar Gaddafi. So we have to now look to ourselves in the greatness of our own people as a standard. If not, no matter how much money you make, no matter what position you get in Western governments, you always are going to be a psychological slave until you see yourself as the standard of greatness. So in talking about the history of Mansa Musa in the ancient kingdom of Mali, we're bringing out several things. First of all, the ancient kingdom of Mali was like a super state. It was sort of like what the EU is right now. And I'm not using the EU as the standard because the ancient Mali precedes the European Union. But I'm just using it as an example of how you should look back at your own people's history. The same way when you look at the European Union, you have France, you have the Netherlands, you have you know, Spain. You used to have Great Britain, but they left. But you have this conglomeration of several different states in the one. So it is with the ancient kingdom of Mali. The ancient kingdom of Mali was made up of several places, such as ancient Takrur, ancient Korkor or Kagu, and ancient Ghana, and as well as Mali. And all these different African states were a part of this 14th century African Union. And This particular super state was wealthier than what the EU is today if you compared dollar for dollar, because the wealth of our ancestors was in actual gold, whereas today the wealth is in a promissory note in dollars, and you don't even have silver coins anymore. So here you had real wealth based on real gold, real resources. And compared to today's measure of wealth, there's no comparison. We were far more richer than the Europeans are today. It is said in this history that when the Takrur went to Egypt, by the way, Takrur was the ancient name for Fulani, and the other blacks who were a part of the Takrur kingdom, when they went to Egypt, and they saw the Takruri people, the Arabs over in Egypt, they would jack up the prices. You know why they would jack up the prices? Because West Africans were rich. They say, oh, here comes those rich people. So if something costs 5 dirhams, they would jack it up to 20 dirhams because, these West Africans got money. They got gold. They got all this wealth. Let's jack the price up. These are the type of people you come from. And, we've been messed up to think that, as I heard somebody say the other day, I'm glad the white man brought me over here. You're glad the white man brought you over. Like, in other words, he thinks that we had nothing in Africa and then we were swinging from trees, running around naked. No. West Africans were very rich people. Mansa Musa established the kingdom of the University of Timbuktu, which had boasted of so many scholars that were the best one in the Islamic world and the best in all the world, including Europe. You had the most literary society on earth at the time. So there's no reason why we should be walking around in 2017 talking about I'm the black Frank Nitti, I'm the black John Gotti, I'm the black. You're using the worst of white people as your standard by which you measure yourself. This is insane, and this is something that will continue to keep us in the condition that we're in, because we have to learn and have to come to the realization that we and our ancestors are something that we really, really should look up to. So what I want to discuss about this particular topic, and the reason why it's so important, because there are several things. Again, one is the inferiority complex that we have as a people, and in thinking that we deserve to be enslaved, and that it was a good thing that we were enslaved, as I've heard said just recently by one of our people, and also our people in West Africa who the French, they were very clever in tricking our people into this tribal division. And not only is that tribal division seen in the present, our people in West Africa believed that we were always enemies to each other. The Fulani, the Manding, and other tribes, we look at each other as enemies. But when you examine this ancient superstate of Mali, these two families actually, particularly the two people that are fighting in Guinea today, the Fulani and the Manding, these two people built some of the strongest kingdoms when they were united. And ancient Mali was the example of that. So was Futa Toro, Futa Jalan. When you talk about the Sokoto Caliphate, many people, the way Western historians will frame it, they will say that it was a Fulani jihad in the Sokoto Caliphate, when in reality, the majority of the followers of Uthman B. Fodio were Hausa people. It wasn't Fulani who led it, but Hausa people were the bulk of his followers. So it was a Muslim jihad, a West African Muslim jihad against corruption in the Hausa states that went across tribal lines. It's the same with even Umar Tau. All of his followers were not Fulani. Futa Toro had a democratic state before America. So did Futa Jalan. They had a voting system. They were democratic. They were theocratic, democratic, constitutional governments, and they existed before America even came into existence. So here you're coming from wise people, people who are nation builders. So when we call this a nation state, don't think of it as a bunch of tribes running around naked, calling themselves, kings and beating themselves on the chest. No, these were actual nation states that preceded these European states that we look up to. So let's examine these different people that existed in this state. So we want to deal with Ibn Khaldun. The two primary sources for Mansa Musa that existed during that time was Ibn Khaldun and one Shabab al-Umari. And for many years, their writings were not available in English because they wrote in Arabic. And this is why Arabic is a very important language, not just for Muslims and religious purposes, because a lot of the ancient writings were in Arabic, particularly as it pertains to West Africa and East Africa. If you want the primary source history, you have to read it in this Arabic because a lot of it is still not translated. And I found that myself when I went to Futa Jala, I saw documents that were written in Arabic, even though it wasn't a Pula language, but it was in Arabic. So I'm going to read something from a translated Ibn Khaldun. And this is under the pilgrimage of the king of Takrur. Now, some people said it was a mistake calling Mansa Musa the king of Takrur. And this confusion comes up again by Western historians because Mansa Musa was the grandson of Sanjata or Marijata. And Marijata, those of you who know the movie and the play The Lion King, this is based on the story of Sanjata or Marijata, who is a Mandinka king. And his story is so great that it's still one of the biggest plays in America today, if not the biggest play. And so here's a story from the 14th century, still selling out in the 21st century from our ancestors in West Africa. Just one among many things we should be proud of. And so they figured since, okay, this is Mansa Musa is the grandson of Sanjata, he obviously must be a Mandinka too. But when you read closely, there were two people involved with these kingdoms. Unlike the Western stories would like you to think that all kingdoms were ruled only by one people. Yes, Sanjata was, according to the history from the Mindi people. But Mansa Musa was called Malik Al Takrur. And it is said that he was from the Takruri people. So Ibn Khaldun gives this account. When he gets to Mansa Musa, he states that after Mansa Musa made the pilgrimage, as is recorded in their history, dealing with the Berber dynasties in the account of the Sanhaja and the dynasty of the Lamtuna. This is talk about the Almoravid period when the Almoravids went up and conquered Europe and Spain. So the history of the dealings of Takrur with the Berber in the Lamtuna is definitely talking about the Takrur people. So this is talk about that particular alliance. And it says that the neighbors of Ghana on the east, as chronicles assert, were another people known as the Soso or the Susu people. And beyond them, another people as Mali, which is known as Malinke. And beyond them, another people known as Korgu. And then beyond them, another people known as Takrur. So the Western historians say that Ibn Khaldun didn't have a knowledge of the different people that existed in the ancient Mali, that he made a mistake in calling Mansa Musa Malik Al Takrur, when Ibn Khaldun clearly demonstrates that he knew of the different people that existed in ancient Ghana. And again, it was a series of superstates. So when it gets to Mansa Musa, it says the next ruler, he's dealing with the line of succession of the rulers that made Hajj. He said the next ruler was one of their clients, which was a Mawla, which is a client state, who usurped their kingship. And then his name was Sakura, pronounced Sabakara. And then he keeps going. And then he talks about how one of the generals of this client state, which was from a different people, usurped the power. So this passage makes it clear that Mansa Musa and one of his generals usurped the power, and they were from a client state, and they weren't from the same state as ancient Mali. So I don't want to read all of this, but I just want to just go through why and what led me to this particular research. I was reading this book here called Mecca, the Sacred City. And in this book, the author, who is Ziauddin Sardar, you got to forgive me because some of these names I cannot pronounce them, but it's Ziauddin Sardar. He was on the Hajj committee. He had access to the primary sources that are in the libraries of Mecca and Egypt, in all of those places. And this is, for the first time, me reading an account of Mansa Musa from the people of Mecca and how they describe him, which made me very sure that, of course, he was a Takrur. He said he was talking about how Mansa Musa gave out all this gold, but he talked about how the people of Mecca, they were particularly taken aback by his appearance. He had a pale complexion, which to the Meccans appeared almost red and yellow, giving the African monarch a distinctive look. And unlike other monarchs who visited Mecca, Mansa Musa had no political motive. So the people would when they said that this is an African monarch coming, they were expecting typical, African features, dark skin, the type of lips and hair that's known by Africans. But they said, no, this man had a reddish yellow hue, which fits into the description of the ancient Takruri people. What Ibn Khaldun noticed, as he says in his writings, that Mansa Musa was the grandson of Sanjata or Mary Jata, but he was a sipt. In Arabia, a sipt means somebody who is the son of a daughter. If you're the son of a son, you will be called a hafid, meaning, your grandson, grandfather, grandson. This is called a hafid, meaning he carries the seed of, his paternal ancestors. But Ibn Khaldun was taken aback because he said that this tradition that is practiced by these non-Arabs, because passing the rule or the kingdom to your hafid, to somebody who's of your seed, is very important in particularly the Arab world and in a lot of worlds. So Ibn Khaldun, when he saw this tradition of them passing it to a sipt, which is the son of a daughter, he took note of that. So Mansa Musa, known as Malik Al Takrur, was the son of Sanjata's daughter. He wasn't a hafid. He wasn't from the same seed as Mansa Musa, and as Sanjata. So, and he goes into details over here, and he talks about how this line went down. He was speaking of when Mansa Musa, give me a second here, took the kingship, who was ruling, and that these were two distinct people. They were not the same people. So Mansa Wali, it's according to Ibn Khaldun, was one of the greatest kings. He ruled for 25 years. His brother, Mansa Wali ruled after him, after Mansa Musa. And then the third Khalifa was insane and devoted to archery and used to shoot arrows at his people and kill them wantonly. So they rose against him and killed him. He was succeeded by a sipt, a son of a daughter, Mary Jata, called Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr is the father of Mansa Musa, who was the son of a daughter. They made him king according to the custom of these non-Arabs who bestowed kingship on the sister of the son of a sister. We do not know his father's pedigree. So he obviously wasn't the same people. The next ruler, Sakura, then Q, grandson of Sultan Marijada. Then after him, his son, Muhammad B. Q. After him, the kingship passed from the line of Marijada, which is Sanjata, to that of his brother Abu Bakr in the person of Mansa Musa ibn Abu Bakr. Mansa Musa was an upright man and a great king, and tales of his justice still hold. Going further, when Ibn Battuta came to visit West Africa, and the brother of Mansa Musa, who ruled after him, Mansa Wali, when Ibn Battuta came, he was looking for some gifts, obviously. Excuse me, not Ibn Battuta, al-Bakri, and who's an Arab explorer, and from North Africa actually. And when he came, he was looking for to receive a gift from the king. So one of the courtiers, they came out and said, yes, the king has a gift for you. So, he got excited, and, he was waiting for this great gift. And the courtier came out with a bowl of what al-Bakri called yogurt. But in Fulani tradition, this is called kosam. Kosam. Mansa Wali gave him a bowl of kosam as a gift. That shows you that he was indeed a Takruri, because that is the tradition. The Horde Day, or in some Fulani language, they call it a Tumu Day. And they gave him a piece of beef. So this all points to that they came from the Takrur people, and that it wasn't a mistake when they called him Malik Al Takrur. The other thing is Mansa Musa's mindset. When he sat with the king of Egypt, they asked him, tell us about your country. And he was talking about his wealth. And he said, one of the things which he told them, this is from Shabab al-Umari, one of the things which he told them was that his country was extensive and contiguous with the ocean. By his sword and his armies, he had conquered 24 cities. Again, this is a super state, with its surrounding district, with villages and estate. It is a country. Now look at what Mansa Musa said that he considers wealth. If you know his history, he was the richest man alive. He gave away so much gold that he single-handedly upset the world's economy by giving away so much gold. But look at what he considered wealth. And this also points to the fact that he's a Takruri. He said it is a country rich in livestock, cattle. That is the wealth of Takruri or Fulani people. The wealth is in their cattle. And he said sheep, goats, horses, mules, and different kinds of poultry, geese, doves, chicken. Now, after he talks about his real wealth, it's only then that he talks about the people in the other countries, in the southern countries, that give him gold. So he put cattle as greater wealth above gold. And that's why he just gave the gold away, because that wasn't wealth to him. That's why Mansa Wali gave al-Bakri a bowl of kosam, because for them, that's wealth, the milk. The cattle herder that goes out, and sometimes he has to go to war. Sometimes he has to fight with the stray dogs and other animals. Sometimes he has to, fight against the crocodiles in the water to get his cow to graze on land. See, today we don't appreciate none of that, because we got these machines that milk the cow and they mass produce the milk. But what the cattle herder has to go through to get you some milk, when he gives you a bowl of kosam, which takes 3 days to ferment, that is one of the highest honor. And in that tradition, is worth more than gold. So all of that points to that he was indeed, that it was not a mistake, as the 20th century historian said, that it was a mistake when they called him Malik Al Takrur. He was indeed a Takrur. All of these things point to the behavior of Takrur people, and the way he's described in this book is consistent with him being a Takrur. Why is this important? Because it shows, one, that there were different peoples, different tribes in West Africa that co-ruled together before colonialism. Now our tribes in West Africa are deeply divided, fighting against each other. But these two families, the Takruri people, the Mindi people, the others, they were intermarried, interrelated. They shared power with each other. They exchanged power. It's just like the European Union. If you have somebody from France, that will be the president of the European Union. Now, what one of the historians said that Mansa Musa would have been upset if they called him Malik Al Takrur. And they said, well, that's evidence that he wasn't a Takruri. No, that's just like saying if somebody from France becomes the head of the whole European Union that includes more than just France, it includes Spain, it includes the Netherlands, and you call them the King of France. Well, he may get upset. He's like, wait a second, I'm not just the ruler of France, I'm the ruler of the whole European Union. So it's the same thing. Just because Mansa Musa would have been upset because you just called him Malik Al Takrur, he said, no. I am the ruler of all of Mali, of not just Takrur, but Mali, Ghana, Korkor, all of these states. And the kingdom, the ancient kingdom of Mali was just as big, if not bigger, than the current European Union. So without going into a bunch of details, I just wanted to share that with you. I hope this knowledge was beneficial to you. I hope it was comprehensive. I hope it was understandable. So that, if any of you do your DNA, know that you're related to the richest people that ever lived. I see some of you, and in my other discussions and other videos, some people, they get a little bit of Indian in them. 5%, 10%. And you see them, they throw the feather in their head, they'll go to the Inipi, and they'll do everything to celebrate their Indian heritage. What are you doing to celebrate your African heritage? Let me, you see me, I throw on the Doleki Lepi, I throw on the Puto from Futajalin, because I'm African. I'm a descendant from West Africa, and I'm proud, and I practice, and I take the time to study the language of my ancestors, the language of my people. Why, if you only got 5% Irish in you, you'll take a trip to Ireland. But you got 95% African in you, you won't step foot on Africa. We have to come out of this. Your people in West Africa was richer, more intelligent, had bigger kingdoms, wealthier kingdoms than those people you running after in these European states that you have very little relation to. And on top of that, there's no such thing as European genes, because all European genes come from Africa. That's number one. Number two, these people you admire, these people were poor. Some of these immigrants, you call yourself the black mafioso, man, them guys, they were so poor, they were running around with rocks in their mouth before they came on boats and come to Ellis Island. And these are the people you holding up as your standard of manhood, and this is who you want to be like. No, brothers and sisters, please, let's learn our history. Learn about our people, learn who we are, and let's embrace the greatness of our West African culture. So that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you so much for taking the time to listen. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum. If you have any questions, you can pose the questions inside the thread, and maybe I'll come back and just answer some of your questions live if you give me those questions right now. Peace.